My name is Brandon Ellis, and Ramy and I are going to be kind of recording and asking each other questions about a box set launch, best ways to do that. I want to ask Ramy a bunch of writing questions, such as like character development, plot writing, arc development, all of that, like trajectory, and also how he did his rapid release. Are you ready, Ramy?
I'm ready, yeah.
All right, so rapid release. Can you kind of take me through the steps of how you did that?
All right, so what I did was I went a bit crazy, to be honest, because I pre-wrote 6 books. Now, I mean, the one thing that I'll have to say is I pre-wrote 6 books, a spin-off series in a universe that I had already created and already had a whole bunch of fans in and stuff like that. So I knew that I wasn't just going to be writing something that was going to go nowhere. I knew that people were interested in the story. I also beta tested the first book of the series quite extensively before writing the other 5 books. But as soon as I felt confident in the series, the premise, and the hero, I wrote the next 5 books in the series. And then I released the books basically, like if you take book 1 as day 0, I released the next book a week later. And then I released the next book after that, 2 weeks after that. And then the next book 2 weeks after that. And then the plan was, so that's 4 books. And then the plan was to release the next 2 books 3 weeks and 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that got a bit sidetracked because I don't know if you remember, kind of at the end of last year, there was this Amazon glitch where they were just randomly unpublishing books.
Yes, yes.
So they subsequently randomly unpublished different books in my series. So first they unpublished book 3, and then I got that back on, and then they unpublished book 2 and 4. I got those back on, and then they unpublished book 1, got that back on, and then they unpublished everything. And so it was a real nightmare, and it did kill the momentum of the launch, unfortunately. So I didn't feel comfortable having the next 2 launches based on that. And in hindsight, I don't know if that was a mistake or not, because what I did was I got hit just after I released book 4. In fact, I thought it was a glitch based on releasing book 4. And I was planning on putting book 5 on pre-order, which is what I had done with the rest. And I didn't. I just kind of held back until I was sure the glitch was over. Then I put book 5 out and put book 6 on pre-order. So okay. It was a bit of a shot, but 1 through 4 was a pure test, and it worked really well. 1 through 4.
So what were your sell rates? Can you tell us that?
My sell rates were
such as was it in KU?
Yeah, so it was in KU. It was in so it was exclusive. So I would have to dig up the numbers, but basically book 1 launched the best ranking it got was 1100. So I never quite broke the 1,000 mark, which was a goal of mine, but it stayed at around 1100 for basically 2 weeks. And then it never rose above 5,000 until book 4, until the glitch, basically. And then it did rise above 5,000. And,
okay.
And now I'm clawing back territory, to be honest, in a way. Actually, now what I'm doing is I'm working with some people who are way smarter than me, I'll be honest. And we're trying to find my pure market, right? Like, who are my core key readers?
Yeah.
So that's at the sacrifice of just kind of sales and stuff, because we're testing this kind of sub niche, and we're targeting these specific authors. Are these the people who are my clan or not, kind of thing. So.
And when you said you did beta testing, what did you do?
So the beta testing involved 3 different things. So number 1, I had kind of a core set of fans and my editors who just kind of approved book 1. So that was kind of level 1. And then level 2 was I published it in an anthology. So one of these New York Times aiming box sets where there was 21 novels in it. And what gave me a lot of confidence in that is that my book in that box set was singled out on several reviews. So, where it's 21 full-length novels, and yet someone in the review bothered to specifically talk about my book. So that gave me a lot of confidence in it. So then what I did was I have, an advanced reader team. And at the time I had a small Facebook group. Now it's much bigger because I put some emphasis in growing that group. But at the time, I think it was like, I don't know, 50 people, maybe less, actually. And so I asked my advanced reader team and that teeny tiny group to read the novel. And when they gave me the green light, then I felt the confidence to kind of like go with the rest of the books, write the rest of the books and go.
And did they have any suggestions? And the suggestions, if they had any, did you change anything?
So the suggestions definitely came with the editors and the three kind of beta readers that I had, where they asked me to tone. So my character has a quirk. So the premise is that she's an ex-vampire. So vampire for 300 years, recently turned human again. And because she was a vampire for such a long time, she talks to herself. And so, one of the things was scale that back kind of stuff. Little things about like improving the storyline, making it a bit more believable, settings. Like originally I had kind of set it in a generic university town because she's gone back to university. She's human. She needs to do something. And then we, kind of through talking to them, it's like, well, I modeled the university town off of the university I went to. So I went to McGill in Montreal. So everything is McGill in Montreal. So it was, kind of just saying that and not kind of keeping it setting agnostic, so to speak. So stuff like that for sure. Yeah.
All right. So where were we? Okay. So after you did the first book, you launched the second book a week later, the third book 2 weeks later, fourth book 3 weeks later. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it was 1, 2, 3, 3. And then the idea being 3, 3, like, so it was going to be like 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, and then for the 6. And then I was going to release after that, just kind of, well, the truth is after investing so much in the series, I wanted to see if the series performed and was worth keeping going. And so I was going to take a break and then kind of keep building it if it was worth going. And so it is worth going. The series is selling well. The reviews are great. I'll be releasing book 7 in early February.
Sweet.
So, yeah.
All right. So, and you saw that you were getting a lot of read-through from book 1 to book 2?
Yeah. So, especially when I was rapid releasing, it's the read-through was really, it was quite decent. I think, like, I know other authors have definitely gotten much better read-throughs, but I was kind of through the sell-through rate performing at over 40%, and the KU reads over 50%. It's not stellar, right? I mean, definitely there are authors out there who get a sell-through rate higher than that and a read-through rate higher than that. So that, but I did I crunched the numbers, so to speak, and you can be quite profitable at those levels. So that was quite encouraging. Oddly enough, rapid releasing and good targeting really matter for read-through rates.
Yeah.
And that's something that, learn from my mistakes, not from what I did, but learn from what I didn't do. The Amazon glitch aside, that happens, right? Like, it just happens, right? They're so huge. Of course, they're going to have these kind of problems from time to time. But the kind of continuous releasing, I think Craig Martell is famous for saying nothing sells your last book like publishing the next one, kind of thing. And that I absolutely see. I see a spike in read-through. I see a spike in sales for the entire series with every new release. And so one of the things that I'm definitely trying to do is I'm doing a lot of market testing now to try to figure out my core readers, but it's going to be about kind of getting that momentum back and building in those kind of continuous releases and stuff like that. So it's a balance. And my mistake, I think, was I wrote the 6 and I took a break, and I shouldn't have. I should have just kept going. I should have kept building it, and kind of jump ship, but not jump ship for the if it wasn't working, jump ship with book 7 or book 8 half done, rather than kind of sit and wait to see how it does before working on book 7 and book 8, because it would have been much better sales wise and just kind of read through wise and all of that had I been able to launch book 7 right out in January.
Have you written book 7 or book 6 yet?
I'm writing book 7 now. I'm in the
Okay.
process of writing book 7.
Are you going to by chance, kind of, since the glitch happened with Amazon, are you going to by chance unpublish the entire series and then republish it so you can, I guess, do it correctly without Amazon screwing it up?
Well, so I mean, I don't want to overblow Amazon's thing, the glitch too much, because, there were things that I did wrong as well that could have kept it going. But I definitely took a hit when book 3 got unpublished. The entire series, and they unpublished my series page. If you look at my sales, they're kind of, do, and then just a deep spike. So no, I'm probably not going to unpublish. I'm really kind of, like I said, I'm working with some people way smarter than me, and we're trying to find the key market. And there are definitely examples out there of people who have series that, we know work, right? We know it has good reviews. It's performed well in the past, that with kind of sustainable marketing, sustainable ads, and kind of scaling them, you can regain it. So I might do revamped covers and revamped book descriptions and stuff like that, but completely unpublishing and republishing. I've sold way too many of these books to key demographics, like, my also bots are quite good. The key demographics, I think I would just get a lot of those guys rebuying the book and being very annoyed. And as much as you can have the same cover and have the same title and stuff like that, Amazon treats it like a new product and will market it to them like a new product. I think you might have some trouble. So I doubt I would do that unless I learned something different. Like, someone like Chris Fox comes and is like, nah, screw all that. You're completely wrong. Do it.
Yeah.
I don't think I will. So.
All right. So what do you mean did you hire people? Actually, I should ask.
I just working with people. We've come to a good agreement, yes. So yeah, in that sense, it's hired, and I just have some people who are one person in particular who's just really understands the marketing world really well, and I weaseled my way into her life and stuff like that. So yeah.
And when you initially launched your rapid release, did you hit up newsletters, friends newsletters? Did you hit up AMS ads and Facebook ads and BookBub ads?
So yeah, actually, I really did. Not BookBub. I did everything but BookBub. A lot of what the rapid release launch was actually based on interviews that you've done. So you did a whole bunch of interviews on Medium, and I kind of took all those interviews, and I did a bunch of other research as well. So what I did, just to walk you through kind of a quick step-by-step process. So if book 1 is day 0, I released book 1. I tried to do a really quiet release where I asked one heavy hitter. So I reached out to a whole bunch of heavy hitters for support, and I asked one heavy hitter to kind of come out for me right after release. 2 wound up coming out for me because one who had offered to help saw my book was live and just came out for me, which is fine. I mean, it worked out in the end. And then I kind of let it marinate in Amazon's juices with just simply off of the momentum of the two heavy hitters and an AMS auto ad. And that's it, right? And
Yeah.
then on day, so I don't have the specifics. I should have brought it out in front of me. On day, I think 4 or 5, I asked my advanced reader team to start posting their reviews, but I didn't even ask all of my advanced reader team. I just asked like 3 or 4 kind of people who I knew would do it to post my reviews. And keep in mind, they're fans. They're fantasy readers, so it wasn't like, you know, my brother, my mother. You know, it was like fantasy readers that I had brought over from my other series. And so they kind of gave me a review. Well, a few of them did. And then I expanded my AMS ads to target some very key authors that I felt were, you know, my people. And I expanded, I had a high CPC. I didn't care if I lost money on it. I really high bid rates and everything like that. And then at about day 8 or 9, I expanded the AMS ads. I started doing a little bit of Facebook ads, and then I started doing newsletter exchanges with, you know, authors who were doing okay but not great. But I had a bunch of heavy hitters that I asked to kind of come out in that 1 week period, and I did promo sites like Bargain Booksy and Reign of Reeds and I Love Vampires, and, you know, just a bunch of stuff that I knew worked well with fantasy or urban fantasy specifically. And also on day 2, I put out book 2 for pre-release. So, you know, so it came out relatively rapidly. And for the pre-release, I only did auto AMS ads for it, and that was it.
Okay, so you did pre-orders?
I did, pre-orders. Thank you. For book, yeah. So book 1 would launch, and book 2 would be put in pre-order. Book 2 would launch, book 3 would be put in pre-order, like that.
Okay.
And yeah, but the only way I books 2, 3, 4, and onwards were all full price, and I only did an AMS auto ad, and that was it for the marketing. With the exception of one newsletter shout out with I Love Vampires, because they have this like special thing where you can put more than one book in a series. So I did that, and I had to I did it for 3 books, and I had to put them all at 99 cents for that newsletter shout out, which was amazing day, because my God, like my sales, just because all 3 were just hugely selling. And my KU reads were awesome. Like, there's definitely something to be said for the strategy of, you know, put your books at 99 cents and just live off of KU reads. Like, if my books aren't long enough to do that, but I could see that's how that strategy could work, just seeing those 3 books, you know.
And when you did the pre-orders, usually what I do when I do pre-orders is I launch, like, say I have book 1 out, but I do a pre-order for book 2 first, and then I use that book 2 pre-order link and I put it in the back of book 1, and then I launch book 1. Did you do anything like that, or did you just kind of hope that they found your book or your next book in the series, or did you put the links in the back of your books?
Yeah, I definitely put the links in the back of my books. But I mean, I wasn't quite as savvy as you, because what I did was, you know, I would launch the 2 books kind of back to back. And then as soon as they were both live and I got the link to the pre-order, I would, you know, kind of like fix the back matter of book 1 and re-upload it. So, you know, all in all, it took about, I don't know, 18 hours to all kind of sort itself out. And I would also, when I released the book without the link. I would make it kind of link agnostic. You know, the next book coming out soon kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah. Did
But,
you?
I mean that. Sorry, go ahead.
So another thing that I do in my books is I have a reader magnet. So I put that in the first, before the first chapter and at the end of the book of, best-selling book here. It's for free if you sign up for my page. Did you do anything like that?
Yeah, so I have a short story that I did that with. And that, I mean, it's 10,000 words, so it's not that short of a story set in the same world. And if you sign up, you do that. And then what I did was I have, this is changed and I'm going to change it back because it worked so well. And changing it, seeing it didn't work well was, so if you sign up to my mailing list at the time, so like I said, this has changed, I offered a second short story if you join my Facebook group. And so what I did was if you signed up to my mailing list, you got directed to a place to download story 1, and then you're offered story 2 in the Facebook group, and then in the thank you page for thank you for signing up, I also say, by the way, did you know that there's other books in the series? So
That's smart.
And here's the links to the other books in the series. So the links to the other books in the series haven't been working so great. And I'm in the process of taking a look and trying to figure out if there's a better way to do it. Because definitely, like, I think I've heard it referred to as the tripwire, right? And the tripwire, it just isn't really engaging. But what was engaging was join my Facebook group for a second short story. That actually worked for a while. And then I switched it out because I decided I wanted to focus on getting the read-through rate. And so instead of saying get a second short story, it's buy book 2 is what the automation for the mailing list is. And so I think I'm going to switch back to getting them into my Facebook group because that was working really well. Whereas the read-through rate is, I'm not seeing a big difference. People want to finish the book before they're going to spend another $3-4 on another book. So is what I'm seeing. That's at least what I'm seeing. I'm sure other people will, are going, no. You're presenting it wrong, or there's a better way to do it, or that's not my experience. That's my experience.
Okay. With your series, with your KU reads, I should ask, would you be able to tell us how high you got with those? Did you get like 50,000 a day, 100,000 a day?
No. My best days were 30,000.
Okay, that's excellent though. That's
30 to 35,000 were my best days, and that was when I was kind of riding high with the rapid releasing. So my KU reads aren't at that level now, and so this is what I mean by the mistake of not maintaining the momentum of releases.
Are you gonna eventually make it a box set?
Well, that's what I want to ask you about, because I know that you've had huge success with your box set. And so I've been hearing more and more about the box set strategy, because all of my books are 50,000 words. But if I were to box set 4 or even all 6 books into, a 200 or 300,000 word box set, yeah, I'd love to hear your experiences on that.
Do you want me to talk about it now?
Yeah, sure. Because you've done a completely different launch with, obviously it's not a rapid release. So what was the series that you initially published?
I called it the Ascendant Chronicles. It's a sci-fi series of 4 books. Project Atlantis, Destination Atlantis, Colony Atlantis, and Beyond Atlantis. And then I have a 5th book that I didn't include in that box set called Enigma Atlantis. And so I included the 4, and that came to about over 1,000, and I think it was like 1,027 pages or so. And
how many words?
Oh, good question. I don't know. Each book is about, I'd say, 60 to 70,000 per book.
Right.
That's book 2 through 5. Actually, 2 through 4 because I didn't include 5 in that box set. Book 1 was, if I remember correctly, is like 87,000 words, and it would have been a stronger book had I actually shortened it. I kind of anyway. And so I combined those books. I didn't create one thing I didn't want to do, which I think might turn off some people. I'm not sure, but it turns off me when you have the box sets and you see the cover and it's like a box set cover. You know how.
Right.
I just wanted to have one big cover, and so and in that way I didn't call it a box set. I called it a quadrilogy. And that was Chris Callius's idea. He called it a quadrilogy. He did the whole cover. His cover is amazing, which I think sold the book quite well. And so before I launched that, I contacted all my good friends, a bunch of sci-fi authors, a lot of bestsellers, asked them if they could. It was about 12 of them. Asked them if they could share this to their newsletter in this 2-week span of time. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to launch it and have what is called a blind launch, where you have 3 to 4 days and you don't tell a single soul that it's even published, that it's on Amazon. I included it in KU, and so I did launch it. I think October 20th.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at it now, October 22nd.
Yeah, October 22nd. I don't know why I think I launched a lot of books on the 22nd. I'm launching my next book on January 22nd. So October 22nd, I launched it. I didn't get my first, promo NL swap till the 26th. And then I had probably about 10 to 14 days of promo swaps and newsletter sites that would promote me, like not like Book Barbarian, but like Sci-Fi Bridge, Discover Sci-Fi, and then they will launch or they will share it in their newsletter, and you'll get quite a bit of downloads. So the reason why I did the blind launch is because I learned from Chris Fox, Nick Cole, Jason Onspach, that it will really help with the algorithms. It'll get genre-specific readers, and that will notify Amazon who to send their newsletter to, which readers to, and then when I got the newsletter swap started on the 26th, which is 4 days later, that's when you get the also bots going as well. And so anyway, that's kind of what I did. I kept it at 99 cents, and my goal was to keep it at 99 cents, and then in about 2 weeks when it gets sticky, I was hoping it'd get around 800 or 500, just hopefully. I've never had anything below 800 in ranking. So if I would get 500, that'd be great, because that'd be the first time I ever got that low. And it kind of got sticky at around 300 or 200. For some reason, I can't remember. It got sticky about a week and a half. And I was like, all right, it's sticky, which means it's going to stay. And I'm going to raise it to $3.99. I raised it to $3.99. Boom. It dropped to about 4,000 within days. It was like, oh man, I shouldn't have done that. So I went back to 99 cents, and then it went back up. And then for about a month and a half, actually 5 weeks, it was on the bestseller list. And it kept going between 200 and 500. And every time I thought, okay, it's going to start going down to pass 1,000, so maybe 2,000, it would go right back up to 200 and 300. And then, so I just kept doing swaps. That's just kind of how I did it. And
Did you do any ads like AMS or?
Yeah, good question. All I did was AMS ads. I did 5 AMS ads the moment I launched it. I didn't do any Facebook ads. I didn't do any BookBub ads.
And how did you pick your keywords for the AMS ads?
I did a couple of autos where Amazon picks them for you. And then I did, had like 600 author names. And that's how I did it. I put in my own keywords and yeah.
So you did more than one auto ad?
Yeah, I did 5. Oh no, sorry. I did 2 of those. I don't know what I was doing. That you don't want to ask me how to do AMS ads because I don't have a clue what I'm doing.
It's interesting. It would be interesting to look under the hood to see, because the theory, right? And so I'm not talking about AMS ads when you're on the Advantage store. I'm talking about the KDP dashboard AMS ads, right? So it's a little bit different. And the theory is that the auto ads is basically Amazon. It takes a look at what you're selling, and it kind of decides what keywords to target based on the genres that you put in, based on the keywords, your book descriptions, any sales history that may or may not exist. It's going to give a list of keywords, and that's what it's going to market to. And so doing two auto ads sounds like it could be predatory, like self-cannibalization and drive up costs, clicks and stuff like that. But it sounds like it also works for you. So maybe those assumptions are wrong, And
well, maybe they're right. And those 2 ads canceled themselves out. I don't want to tell anybody to do AMS ads like that because I didn't know any of that, what you just said. And
right, yeah.
So let's focus on the 3 ads that I did. And I just created 3 different ad copies. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just used those 600 keywords. And that's it. That's all I did. I think what kept it going was I continued to do newsletter swaps. And it wasn't because after the 2 weeks of newsletter swaps that I did do, there were people, even bigger authors than the ones I was using, that were contacting me saying, oh, hey, I see your book's doing well. Can we do a newsletter swap? So I just sure. And so that's what I did. And I just kept doing it and doing it. And
nice.
it was something that I planned and that I hoped would happen. And it did better than I expected. I was hoping to make, I don't want to say how much I made. I was hoping to make $10,000 a month on this for maybe 1 or 2 months. And I've exceeded that for 3 months now. I think
wow.
3 months. My KU reads they're now at around 60,000, but they stayed around 100,000 for quite a while.
Wow.
At one time.
And that's for one book?
This is for the box set.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that with one book. That'd be great.
No, but what I meant is that like the 100,000 is reflective.
I'm just talking about the quadrilogy, and this doesn't include all the other books that I have.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and so what I noticed is that a lot of people are doing the same thing. They're like, okay, they took Chris Callis's idea. I shouldn't say took. They're using Chris Callis's idea and putting quadrilogy now on their covers and doing a 4-book box set. Chris Fox is doing it, and he's doing a great job right now with it. There's some other people who did it. I don't know if they did the amount of newsletter swaps that I did, so I don't think they were as successful.
Right.
And I was getting for November, I got an email from Amazon saying that you were one of our all-stars. Here's some more money. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so,
awesome.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know much about the all-stars, but then I get this email and I'm reading it. And I was like, this can't be for me. And I just couldn't figure it out. And it said, you're getting this much more money. And I'm like, wow, I made that much already and you're giving me more? That's pretty nice. And yeah, so that's just kind of what I did.
Yeah, well, that's a That is a hell of a launch. So I just had a couple of questions actually. So how's your sell through to book 5?
Oh, it's excellent. It's above 50%. I would say between 50 and 60%. I don't know if that's excellent. I've asked like Jeffrey Haskell if that's pretty good, because he's pretty smart, and he said it was. I know other authors that can get upwards of 70% and more. This is another reason why I wanted to talk to you about how to write. If I'm a good writer. I'm not a great writer. I think I'm a great writer now. But when I wrote those books, I started those 2 years ago before I made it a box set. I wasn't as good of a writer as I was now. So I think if I rewrote those, I could get better sell through. So, because sci-fi is a tough one. That's one of the most criticized for reviews. They're pretty tough. The reviewers are pretty tough for sci-fi. So you have to write.
That was going to be my question. Is this a hard sci-fi or soft?
It's a space opera. It's hard and soft. So I have magic elements in it. I didn't expect to, but with this book, I wrote by the seat of my pants. I was a pantser for this series. I shouldn't say that. I was a pantser for books 1, 2, and 3, and then I changed it. I studied the craft a little bit more and realized, you know what? I do better with an outline. And so I created beats, outline. Libby Hawker's book really helped me. And I think it's called, I can never remember. I think it's Take Off Your Pants, I think. I used her method. And for book 4 and book 5, I did the outlines for those books. And those reviews are much better than book 1, 2, and 3. Book 1, 2, and 3 are at 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. The quadrilogy is not doing that well with star rating. It's at a 3.5. Yet, and that's the worst book star rating I've ever had. However, it gets read so much, and those who read book 4 or the quadrilogy and liked it will leave a review for book 5. So that rating's really good. So the people who, it's so funny, I have a 1-star rating that says the book is just too fast for me. The next 1-star rating says the book is too slow for me. So it's just kind of, it's funny how that is. You can just please others and you can't. And what I think I screwed up with this book, I think I put too much magic elements in it, which sci-fi readers aren't too into, unless you're writing a space fantasy, which I didn't put it as. I just put it as sci-fi space opera, and my magic was a little too much, I think. So hopefully that was the reason.
But the thing is like, it sounds like you're doing pretty well, because like the truth is that your book is has a 3 point whatever star rating, but you're still under 2,000 3 or 4 months after writing release. That's amazing, with minimal ad spend. That's really amazing, right? You know, like,
and I'm not doing any newsletter slots on it anymore either. So I'm also selling almost 100 books. I'm selling between, I say, 90 and 110 books a day still, knock on wood. Hopefully that keeps going. And my KU reads are between 60 and 70,000. Sometimes they'll bump up to 80,000.
Right.
And that's usually on a Sunday for some reason.
Right.
And it's pretty remarkable how that book, I think people, I think the cover is really getting people, and I think the name Atlantis, I think that's a keyword name that people are like Atlantis Gene. And the funny thing is, I didn't know when I was writing Project Atlantis, I had no idea about Atlantis Gene. And I wrote Chris Fox, and I was just asking him questions, and he asked me what book I'm writing right now. I said Project Atlantis, and I explained it to him, and he goes, "Oh, that's much like Atlantis Gene." And so I look over Atlantis Gene, and I was like, and so I pick it up and I read it, and I'm like, oh crap, this is just like the book I'm writing. So I actually had to change Project Atlantis a little bit. So I wasn't going to get that, oh, he's a copycat and all that stuff. But what I am getting in the reviews, in this quadrilogy reviews, is I'm getting, this is a ripoff of Stargate. The problem with that is I've never watched a single Stargate episode, and I don't know how I possibly ripped it off.
Yeah, I worked with a guy once who approached me for help plotting, right?
Yeah.
And he was an older gentleman, and he's like, okay, I have this great idea, and he starts walking me through the idea. And not only does he tell me the premise and the outline and all of that stuff, like he starts walking me through altered carbon. I don't know if you've ever.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah, like he basically there was a lot of differences, but it was altered carbon. And then I kind of mentioned to him at some point, I was like, is this like altered carbon fan fiction? And he'd never even heard of altered carbon. Like he genuinely had never encountered it. And yet somehow managed to create something in terms of premise and storyline so similar. Like he even had his main hero was, a former kind of like assassin who was jailed, and then, he didn't use the word re-sleeved, but, re-sleeved in his world into a detective's body. And I'm like, really? Seriously? And I had no idea. And I was like, okay, we got to change this a lot. This is altered carbon. It just is. And the Netflix show had been out at this point, and I, said, like, check out the Netflix show and stuff. I think the next time we spoke, oh, I can't believe this. I've been working on this idea for years.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Did he end up keeping it and launching it? Or is he still
he hasn't launched it yet, but I don't want to say too much, but basically what happened was the technology. So even though it was altered carbon, the way the technology works was different. And instead of kind of looking at it, as this technology has been around for 300-400 years, he moved the story so that it literally had just been developed. And which altered carbon doesn't, altered carbon is part of our culture, everyone does it kind of thing. So he's kind of moved it to that really earlier time. And we'll see. I mean, he's like I said, he's an older guy, and he's very slow and meticulous, but really into this project. And so I hope it works, because at this point it's different enough. But it was just that thought of like, really, like, and I really thought he was BSing me. Like when I said, well, this is an altered carbon fan fiction, it must be, right? And he's like, I had never heard of altered carbon. And I truly thought he was just full of crap, but no, he legitimately.
It might do well, because I loved altered carbon. It's really good.
Yeah, and he moved away from the noir detective as well, because I just really never seen altered carbon. And
wow.
It's like, yeah. Anyway, we'll see. We'll see where it goes, but it happens, right? It happens.
Yeah, I wanted to add something about the box set, and but the quadrilogy I did, and somebody who really helped me and took me aside was, I can never say his last name. He's a sci-fi author. It's Charles, but CC, I can't say his last name. So he really helped me out. And anyway, he's a great guy. He taught me a lot about doing this stuff, just like Chris Fox and all those people I interviewed on Medium. They helped me. And if anybody watches this, I want to say, learn from the best. And so that's what I did, because success leaves clues. And even if you're not talking to them, just watch what they're doing. And like, I used to work for a guy named Anthony Robbins, and he says, you mirror other people, mirror the successful people, and you will see how they're doing it, and you can do the same thing. And because there's a strategy to everything, and there's steps you can take. And even when there's a new way of doing it, like, I don't know, there might be another way to promote your book that I don't know about, that somebody's using, and you can figure out what that is, and use that to your advantage as well. And that's the cool thing about 20 books to 50K is that we share how we do well. We share what's worked for us, and people can take it or leave it, and they can pretty much do what successful authors are doing because we're showing them. And anyway, that's all I got to say about it.
I would like, I totally 100% agree with you. I would even say, like, and embrace the inner stalker within, and just kind of like, you know, stalk the guys who are doing really well, and then put in the work, prove that you put in the work. That's the point. Right?
Exactly. And it's not just seeing what they're doing. You've got to put in the hard work. I mean, I'm working my tail off. And I'm constantly working on craft. I download a book, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 books a month on craft alone. I just downloaded, one of the best writers I know is Jackson Dean Chase, and he told me about 2 books to download. One's on dialogue and one's on character, and then I've downloaded a bunch of his books on how to write, and they're phenomenal. So anyway, learn your craft. Learn your craft as best you can.
Yeah, I was looking, like, I mean, it's amazing, this 4 box set thing. So there's this guy, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, Jir, and he does something called Star Force, the Origin series.
Yeah.
So it's hilarious because this guy, I just kind of quickly went through his books and looked at his rankings. He is killing it. And every one of his books is a 4-book box set. There are 25 books in this series, so there are 25 box sets. But when you actually look at the page count, there are 300 pages. So in other words, it's a normal length novel.
Yeah.
So he's clearly found, you know, that quartet kind of quartet, but you know, that quartet style marketing. Clearly, there's something to it. It's like, you know, the box set, the 3-book box set was all the rage 3 years ago. And now the readers have come to it. You know, by the time we're 60, Brandon, it's going to be, I just released a 27-book box set, you know, like.
Yeah. So. I'm looking at his rating right now. Let's see here. Yeah, this has been out for 3 years.
Yeah.
And he's still he's under 3,000 for ranking.
Yeah.
His star rating is at, it's about 3.5 stars, and he is selling a ton of them.
Yeah, he's killing it. Like, I mean, there's no doubt that this guy has knows what he's doing. But I just thought it was interesting when you kind of said the 4-book box set, and just looking at him, like, clearly that's a huge strategy of his.
Yeah, he's doing great. He's got great covers. He's got a great name. His blurb is excellent. Wow.
But the covers for the box sets are identical.
Yeah, they're identical.
Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that, though. Well, apparently you can if you're putting a different subtitle here. He's got an Orion series 5 through 8. Everything else is the same. Then 6 through 10.
Well, and it looks like he's actually has released the books separately, because his list just goes on and on and on and on. So there are, you know, it looks like he has actually released 4 books of, you know, 85 to 90 pages each, kind of thing. Well, Cyberstock, man, and hey, I know I'm saying your name wrong, Irki Jir, but reach out to us, or we'll reach out to you. Like, you're killing it, dude. Really amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So okay. I just had. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, ask your question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to ask one more question about your box set, because what you were saying, actually, just to an earlier comment, is like, clearly you know what you're doing, and clearly you've gotten better at what you're doing. So have you thought about doing another kind of series, 5 to 8 books in a series kind of thing?
Yeah, so back in the beginning of June last summer, I decided, okay, I'm gonna take the summer off. I'm gonna write 6 books,
Mm.
and so I did. I wrote 5 books, and actually, I didn't get to book 5 until about November. And so I that's why I created the quadrilogy, because I needed something for money wise and a
Mm.
launch and something published between the time of me not launching books for a while, because it'd be like 6 months in between me launching some books. And
Yeah.
so what I did is I did that. I wrote 5 books. I'm still writing book 5 because something happened during that time. I hired a editor, and I gave her the first book in July, and then I gave her the second book in August. And the idea was to get these books done before January, when I wanted to launch this 6-book series. I was going to do a rapid release. By November, and I had already paid, because this is a well-known editor that does very well-known authors. And I had already paid her up front for 2 of the books. And by November, I messaged her because she was so busy. She still was unable to get to my books. And by November, I said, I think you're too busy. And she goes, yes, I'm sorry. I'll pay you back. And so she did. And then so I did about a 2-week search for another editor, found one, and we didn't get started until December. So I've got book 1 done. It's launching January 22nd. Book 2 is about done, and this is the editing. And so she gave me back book 2, and I'm finishing the stuff that she's telling me to fix. Book 3 is almost done. So the rapid release isn't going to be as rapid as I hoped. So January 22nd is my launch for book 1. Book 2 is not going to be a week out like I was hoping. It's going to be 2 weeks out on February 5th. And then the next book is going to be 3 weeks out. And then the 4th book, I hope, is going to be a month out. And then I'm going to do pre-orders for each one of those books. 5 and 6 will be out, I'm hoping, a month after each other as well. That's what I was hoping to do. I was going to do what you did with 1 week, 2 week, 3 weeks. I was going to do that. I'm not able to now. So,
but I think, like, if you do the same release that you're doing for book 4, for the quartet, sorry.
quadrilogy,
the same style release. So the 3 things that worked phenomenally well for me were the newsletter swaps, in particular with heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's, I mean, that's not the easiest thing to do. A lot of heavy hitters are the nicest people on the planet, but they need proof that you're not going to embarrass them. So
and plus they're being hit up all the time for newsletter swap.
Yeah, and so but I was like I said, that's why I meant by put in the work, because I was able to go up to them with the whole, body of work and say, please help, and and so but it was the heavy hitters for sure. Like the mid-list authors were great, and it's great camaraderie, and it's definitely worth doing. But there's a big difference between a heavy hitter giving you a shout out and a mid-lister giving you a shout out. It's just I don't know what it is, but exactly, because proportionately the response isn't even the same, right? So and then the other thing was the pre-release, having that available with the back matter. That was the second thing that was really good. And then the third thing, and I hear you saying the same thing with your box set, is being selective on which newsletter promos to do.
Yeah.
So it's not like just about hitting up anyone who has a promo newsletter thing, like, but actually being specific to fantasy readers or sci-fi readers.
Yeah, and I have to turn down some people who want to do newsletter swaps with me because their genre, like one guy is Western sci-fi, and that's not, I don't want that to be in my also box. I want my genre specific, like space opera or colonization or, that kind of stuff. Also, one thing I wanted to add was when you do a box set or any book, you've got to put in your reader magnet, because just with the quadrilogy, because I have reader magnets in all my books, just in the quadrilogy, and this might not sound like a lot, but it's a lot for me. I was able to get 1,500 so far, actually 1,600 signups from that book alone. And I've had upwards of 20,000 subscribers. I could probably have 30,000 subscribers, but I'm kind of constantly cleaning out. So I kind of stay around 8 to 10,000 subscribers.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I like, because it's just easier for me to manage. Some people can manage 35,000. I want to get up to 35,000 or 50,000 subscribers that are good subscribers, not somebody who never opens. So yeah, that's another thing I want to add.
Yeah, it's about ruthlessly culling the list. Like I did a ruthless cull, and I went down from, I think 14 to 16,000 subscribers to 7. And it was like my open race just, like it was insane. It was, because you're just carrying around this dead weight, and there's this comfort in having the zombie horde behind you. Yeah. And in reality, they're useless, right? But like there's just like, oh, I got a mailing list of 16,000 people. I rock. But actually, you don't. So, and that was kind of one of those ruthless things. And the one thing, actually, I have a question for you, because this is something I don't do, and it's starting to dawn on me that this is a huge missed opportunity. Do you have like an onboarding autoresponder campaign for them when they do sign up?
I do. It's getting harder and harder to maintain that, meaning that I used to write an article on sci-fi or fun article or an interview once every 11 days. And I'd put that on my automation, is what it's called on MailerLite, which I use. And every 11 days, those new subscribers or any subscribers are going to get an article. And then underneath the article, I list all my books always. And before my website got hacked, my website literally got hacked to where now it's blackballed on Google and all that stuff. So I had a lot of people commenting, like a lot of subscribers, and they would sometimes argue with each other over these articles that I'd write. And it was really cool because there's a lot of engagement. I did an article on how Fox, the network Fox, killed Firefly, and I did a lot of research on it and wrote it, and man, I got like 35 responses, which you now can't see, so I can't prove it, because it's gone. So I just started a new website 2 days ago, and I got to kind of start that all over again. And so that's what I would do. That's the automation I do. Do you do automation?
So, well, actually, can I ask a question? And I'll tell you what I do. But so when the automation was running, obviously before you got hacked, was it like, so? If I joined today, I was just getting to the front of the queue, so I was getting that article that you had written 6 months ago or whatever.
The first thing I write is a welcome letter, a thank you, and it's, I think, no, the first thing they get when they subscribe is my free book. It goes to Book Funnel immediately. They get the free book, and then they get a welcome letter. Right. 5 days later, I send them the second book in that best-selling series, which was done in like 2013, 2014. It doesn't sell anymore, so I just made it free. they get the second book and telling them that they're going to get a third book in that series for free in 5 days. And if they keep hanging on, they're going to get a couple more freebies here and there. I'll find them, since I do so many newsletter swaps, I'm going to find them the best-selling authors, new releases at like 99 cents. If they hang on, plus I'm going to be giving them articles every 11 days. And I tell them that. And then after that email, after the third email, they start getting my articles or my posts or whatever you want to call it.
Okay. And they are just, I mean, like, so if I signed up today, I would get an article you wrote in 2016.
You wouldn't get an article I wrote if you signed up today. You get an article I wrote on your fourth email.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I meant, but on the fourth email. But it's an old article. You're not giving me the up-to-date articles.
I'm not. I'm giving you all I just have a line of articles that I keep adding.
Right, okay.
I don't know if that's the best way to do it. I'm already strapped with time because I have 3 kids, I have a partner, Lotus, and I have a family life, and I'm writing all day and marketing, trying to figure out new marketing stuff, and I'm in groups, sci-fi groups that I collaborate with, and or a community that I talk with, and I'm just busy. I don't have all this time to spend it to my newsletter. So
yeah, no, I definitely think it's about managing your time, and that's probably you're saying yes to the bigger things, right?
Yeah.
My issue is so my shtick is, so you're sci-fi stuff, right? And my shtick is mythology, because that's what really I take, mythical creatures from various religious traditions and folklore and whatnot, and I put them in a modern setting. Like, so I have a character, for example, who is a minotaur, and it's like, I used to guard the labyrinths of Minos, and now I deliver pizza, kind of thing. And so,
that's awesome.
And so I'll do these various kind of like mythical engagements, right? But when I would have direct them to my website, the problem is then, so I did it 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, they would get an email for the next article. But the problem is that because all the articles were published on the website, most of them had seen them already, because they would just kind of go through everything that was available on the blog at that point. And so then I was just like, well, how do I care? Like, maybe that doesn't matter, or maybe it does. I'm not entirely sure. So that was my debate. So what I did, I made an incredibly elaborate mailing list autoresponder campaign where, if they clicked, they got X, and if they didn't click, they went down another branch, and if they didn't open, and so one of the branches was like, didn't open, and if they didn't open 3 emails, I would cull them from the list, but I would give them one more shot to join, and I had the subject line of, so this is how it ends, not with a bang, but an unopened email. And that email, my God, like and sometimes angry responses, right? People would be like, oh, thanks for this. I really like the subject. Oh yeah, no, I totally want to stay on your mailing list, that kind of stuff. But then I get some people who are like, listen, I'm really busy, okay? I can't always open every email, really vitriol, anger over this subject. But then what happened was if you see on 20 books, I did a few posts called the Control-Alt-Z reboot. And the idea was I changed my name, I changed my branding, I did everything, I re-released everything, I unpublished, I had like 14 books out, I unpublished them all and only republished a few of them. And, I really went crazy. And you can check that out on 20 books. I detail everything I went through, or all my plans, basically. But what was interesting about kind of going through the whole reboot was the mailing list debate, which was, do you do this big autoresponder campaign, or do you just simply tell them when you have a new release? And since I was planning on having rapid releases, I was like, oh, I'll just tell them about the new releases. But now that that's kind of slowed down, I'm thinking about going back to the autoresponder.
Oh, okay. Speaking about responses from the newsletter, I recently asked Julia V, who wrote this awesome article on, it was one of Tom Cruise's sci-fi movies, Edge of Tomorrow, I think it was called.
Yeah.
And
that was a good
it's a
one.
great article she wrote. And I asked her if I could put it in my newsletter and then also, point to her books and all that stuff. I got this nasty response, not from the article, but that simply I didn't write the article. I used somebody else's. I was lazy. And I was like, I didn't need to. I just loved the article. And that they're going to, unsubscribe. It was just, if I read it, you'd be like, what? This is just overly mean. This was unnecessary. So that's one thing as authors is we're pretty brave. We put ourselves out there in the world for people to kind of pick at, observe, judge, and critique. And we get stuff like this. We get great emails and we get nasty emails. And it kind of gives us a thick skin, which is good in life, I think.
Yeah. It used to really bug me, like kind of a mean comment or not even a negative review, like a 3-star review where they were like, oh, too much action or whatever the complaint would be. But now it's just like, okay, they bought my book.
Yeah.
Well, reviews matter, but I think the debate helps. Right? When they see that disparaging, 2-star and 4 and 5-star, and it's kind of equally weighted on both sides, I think there's a lot of readers who go, well, let me make the decision for myself. I think that just readers are just interested in kind of that, that the debate, right? If you're not pissing someone off, you're not doing it right. But I have a question about the book 5, right? So does the end of the 4th book, so the quartet, right? So does the end of that end on a cliffhanger to motivate them into book 5?
No. Book 4 was not a cliffhanger. I don't know if this is true, but what I've learned from these books these craft books that I'm reading is you kind of need to resolve at the end of each book. So that's what I did with books 1. I did a resolve. Book 2, book 3, I didn't resolve. I just kept them going there was cliffhangers on those 2 books, and they weren't as well received. Book 4, I have it resolved, and with an epilogue that kind of like, oh, okay, there's going to be a 5th book, but the epilogue's not like a cliffhanger. And then I did book 5 and also a resolution at the end as well.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because part of me, when I'll do the box set, is wondering if I should do 4 or 5 books, just because the 5th book ends on a cliffhanger that people actually have complimented me on.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were just like, what an exciting end to the book. Totally made me have to get the next one. And it is true, because I definitely resolved the story of book 5, but then you realize that there's something much worse going on.
Yeah.
And what she thought was the problem was only a piece of it, really, and there's something much bigger going on. And you kind of see that at the very end. And I think it would have pissed people off if they hadn't seen the pre-order for however many days later it was, right? So
yeah.
So it were, and once it's out, right? So, but yeah, definitely debating between doing a box set between 4 or 5 of the books, because 4 books would put me at like 880 in terms of page count. So 5 books will put me at 1,100 in terms of page count, and definitely KU reads are the goal here.
Yeah.
So another question I had about the box set was, you're seeing, what kind of read-through rate are you seeing for sales from the Quartet to Book 5 versus KU reads from Quartet to Book 5?
Gosh, good question. I did a calculation, and with KU reads, it's quite a bit. I'd say it's like almost 80%. With maybe that's too much. Probably 70 to 80%. With buys, it's about 50%.
Very good. I mean, that's really good.
And that shocked me because I wasn't expecting this book to be this well received. I didn't see myself as that good of a writer. That's something I need to work on myself. But it's book 5. I think is starting to go down a little bit now. I think it's in the 6,000 range for ranking, but it was up there quite a bit. It was doing well. It's not doing as well now. So
still, I mean, but that's the thing, and that's the hardest and harshest reality of this game is that you need something to keep pushing the book sales. It's either more books that are well launched, and that's something that I definitely have seen in my own self is that launching books 4, 5, 6, you got to hit it just as hard as launching the earlier books.
Exactly.
There's no relaxing on it. You gotta hit your list. You gotta hit the social media. You gotta hit your mailing list. You gotta do some kind of like hype up campaign to get people excited. Oh, the next book's coming out. It's not just like, hey guys, book 7's out. No, it's like, here's some sample chapters. Here's some tidbits. Here's a cover review. You got to really build that momentum before you release the book. And it makes a difference. Like, I kind of thought that, you can rest on your laurels a little bit, but you really can't.
No.
Yeah, you really can't. And in terms of, and somehow you have to, and you're not, it's not 100% guaranteed that Amazon's going to email everyone who bought the previous book in a timely way, right?
Not at all. No.
So you got to push it as best as you can push it, and it's a real pain in the butt. And so either you're doing it through rapid releasing or you're doing it through some kind of sustained advertising.
Yeah.
And the fact is that you're doing really well doing a bit of advertising and a bit of newsletter sharing. Yeah, I wouldn't touch this until everything's above.
I know. I have. It's so funny. There's a correction I need to make in Atlantis quadrilogy,
right?
And I have withheld from uploading that correction in fear that this upload might do something bad. I'm not going to touch it. Just leave it alone until it starts to not sell at all. Then I can do the upload. And that's so not true. But that's where I am right now. I even almost uploaded it yesterday, and I was like, I had my finger on it. I was like, no, don't do it.
Yeah, so. I'm with you, man. Don't do it. You don't. You just don't know, right? Yeah. Like I mean, it's horrible, but Amazon literally unpublished every single one of my books, and not at once, one at a time. So you just don't know what screw up is going to happen behind the scenes or whatever. So yeah.
Exactly.
I'm with you, man. We're like athletes who wear the same pair of socks that we never wash. Right?
It's true. It's so true. Okay, so you used to teach. I'm changing subjects. Unless you have more questions. Do you have more questions?
Oh, no, I don't, yeah.
Are you a writing coach?
Yes.
And what do you do with this as a writing coach? What are you teaching these authors? Are you teaching them dialogue and character development, plot trajectory, arc trajectory, series trajectory? I think I said trajectory way too many times. But what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm working with first-time authors generally. There's a few authors that I'm working with who are have published multiple books already, but they've not really kind of seen any sales or actually that's not true. There's a couple who are doing okay actually, but But I work with first-time authors, and I just kind of help them with their story building. And because they're first-time authors, they're also very much interested in launching. The thing is that because they're first-time authors, not many of them are. Some of them are. Some of them definitely are, but not many of them are kind of mentally prepared for the idea of a rapid release or pre-writing several books. I know that it took me 10 years to write my first book, and then it took me a year to write my second book, kind of thing. And you really have to earn your chops to get to that point where you can do 50 to 80,000 words a month, to 100,000 words a month for some people. I'm about 70 is what's comfortable for me. So that's kind of who I've found a nice little niche to work with.
Nice. Would you be able to answer questions on characters and plot and what you suggest doing with a book?
Yeah, I would. I would say though that I'm happy to answer because I teach based on what I do, and obviously a lot of what I do is based on what I've learned from other authors and other kind of other authors really who've just talked about the craft. I will say right now that it is just kind of what I do, right? There's a million ways to skin that cat. So
yeah, with character development, usually authors create a character with a flaw, and through that book they overcome a flaw. I've been reading this book, or I read this book called, oh geez, I'm so bad with titles, Story Genius. And Story Genius talks about characters' misbelief. It's not necessarily a flaw, it's something that they believe about themselves that isn't true, and then they end up overcoming that misbelief by the end of the book. What do you do with a character in those regards?
So what I like to do is I like to create character conflict, like personality conflict, or sometimes it's not always personality, it's not always internal. So for example, let's take Jack Sparrow as an example, right? So Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
So he has quite a bit of character conflict because on the one hand, he's a buffoon, he's an idiot. And on the other hand, he's a friggin' genius. And then on one hand, he's incredibly selfish. And on the other hand, he'll do what's right. And so when you kind of get these poles, so to speak, that describe the character, I find that the best story, once you've identified these polar opposites in your character, exists in the middle. So, the best parts of Jack Sparrow's character are when he's escaping from the authorities, and he's such a bumbling moron as he's doing it. But at the same time, what he's doing is absolute genius. Or he's sneaking into, the deck to steal a jewel, but then notices something that relates to the bigger picture, the bigger evil, and just kind of his approach. It's that character debating themselves and the conflict or the ridiculous situations they get into as a result of those debates. And then, so that's what I like to do. So I always like to create a character who has 2 or 3, sometimes 4 opposing characteristics. And then kind of, in terms of personality, explore that. And then in terms of character development in the sense of, misbeliefs or whatever, I find that it's in the writing process that those misbeliefs or those inaccurate beliefs kind of start to appear because it just kind of comes out through the scenario when you're staying true to the character conflict.
Oh, interesting.
And then, so for example, my main character in my latest series, Kat, she spent the last 300 years as a vampire, and then recently was turned human. So part of her character is the desire to just be a normal human girl, right, or young woman, I guess. And the other part of the character conflict is to atone for all the crap that she did, like all the murders and death and carnage she did in her 300 years as a vampire. And you can't be a normal, university student and atone for 300 years of bloodshed. You just cannot be that person, right? And therein lies a lot of her depth, lies in this kind of selfish desire to be normal and this selfless desire to try to make up for, well, I guess you could call it selfish, actually. Selfish desire to make up for her past and alleviate some of her own guilt. And then you get these interesting character developments. So in the first book, she kind of feels not ready to date as a result of this conflict, right? And
Yeah.
so, and by extension, she doesn't feel worthy of receiving love, so to speak. And this is a bit of a misbelief, right? But it's a misbelief that's born out of that conflict. And then when I kind of have that scene where, the campus, whatever, hunk approaches her or whatever, and, because she is very attractive and whatnot, and they have that kind of flirtation together. And I realize that she doesn't feel worthy of engaging in a relationship at this point. I have my character Bible, and I'm like, doesn't feel worthy. Like, oh, okay, so now there's a direct result of that conflict that at some point needs to be resolved. Not necessarily in book 1. It can be way, in book 10, or it can never be resolved. It can be a constant undercurrent to her personality. And then the last thing that I do and I advise is don't make your characters too complicated. I mean, you may be Jonathan Franzen writing literary fiction, sure. Okay, you may be that guy. But if the goal is rapid releasing and releasing stories that engage and stuff like that, you don't want to burden the reader with these anxiety-ridden, angst-driven characters who are just, constantly debating themselves and. You can't lose sight of the fact that it's got to be fun. It's got to be entertaining. Now, again, if that's what you want to write, then by all means, create that deep character with all those character conflicts and whatever. But that's not what I do, at least. Like my goal is to entertain.
And do you write when you with these characters? Do you figure these characters out before you start writing and kind of outline these characters and their flaws and their misbeliefs?
Yes.
And what they'll overcome.
Yes.
And then you mentioned Character Bible. Wait, did you mention that?
Yes.
Is that a book, or is that just something you just create?
No, that's something I create about my book. So I will have a book Bible and a series Bible. And so every time there's a new character introduced, it goes into the Bible and I flesh out, like the points about it. Every time I introduce a new creature, because I use real mythical creatures, right? And in my story. So I put them in because I don't want to keep using the same creatures. I want to divvy it up, but then also these creatures become characters, and so they can come back. And when it comes to like how magic works and key plot points to carry on, so I'll just kind of keep track of everything as it happens. But in terms of the planning, so when it comes to planning a series, I will plan how the series starts and I'll plan how it ends. So I know I'm pretty solid. Like I have probably 70% of an outline written for the last book in the series. Oddly enough, I'm not entirely sure how many books will take place to get to that last book. But I know that these 10 key events, it's actually not 10, it's I think it's 17 key events have to occur for that finale to be set up, so to speak, right? So I'll know that. And then I'll know kind of the key characters, the key characters that will be throughout the whole series. And then when it comes to individual books, I will figure out any additional characters, and I will figure out what I call the 5 milestones. So they're the 5 key moments in a book. So, you have the setup where we kind of lay the scene. Then you have the inciting incident. This is where now the hero is aware of the main plot line, right? Because the hero needs to be introduced to the catalyst, the murder, or the raging monster that's approaching, or in one of my books, her mother showing up, right? It's like that key event that sets the main story going. And then I create 2 major setbacks. So these are moments where it's darkest before dawn moments, and then the climax. And so those are my 5 key moments in any story, and they're kind of my roadmap. And they're the 5 moments that are pretty much set in stone. Sometimes they change, but pretty much I always set out to write the book with those 5 key moments occurring. And then I do what's called a scene bucket or a scene dump, right? Where I'll just come out with a ton of scenes, and I'm like, oh, this could happen between 1 and 2, or milestone 1 or 2, or between milestone 2 and 3, or but a lot of times these scene dumps, which are this, by the way, these Post-it notes on the wall, I don't actually use. I have a ton of scenes that I planned for books 2 and 3 that never happened, but I have, I might have like 30 or 40 scenes, and they're just ideas. But really what I'm doing is working between the 5 points. So that's my system. And then once that's set, as long as, I'm in, sometimes you kind of get in your own head and stuff like that. But generally speaking, I can produce between 3,000 and 5,000 words a day. Once that's done, once that's in place.
Yeah. I've noticed when I do outlines, I write about 2,000 more words per day. I think that's because I know where I'm going. I don't have to stop and think. So do you create an outline?
No, just the 5 milestones and the scene dump.
Okay.
That said, I am working with another author now, and I've had to create, as part of that collaboration, a blow-by-blow outline. I think the outline worked out to be 8,000 words.
Yeah.
What we're planning to be a 70,000 word book. And that was a very new experience for me. And I don't know how good a job I did. I'm waiting for the co-author to come back and, tell me this was coherent, right? So I'll let you know. But that's but generally speaking, when I'm just working by myself, it's how the series begins, how the series ends, what are the key things that have to occur, and then per book, 5 milestones, and a scene dump.
Okay, cool. That actually answers a lot of my questions. I have one last question for you. You ready?
Yeah.
What's something you can tell anybody who's listening about writing?
Yeah, you're going to suck when you start out. It's just that simple. If you think you're going to be, J.K. Rowling with your first book or whatever, you might be, but it's because, you were born with a savant level talent that is in your genes. But for the rest of us, you got to write shitty books for a while before you get good at it. And that doesn't mean you can't make a career and start building a following, publishing books that are okay. You absolutely can, but you're just going to get better and better and better, and you just got to make peace with that. And if you can't make peace with that, do something else, quite frankly.
Awesome. I agree. 100%. I agree. And do you have anything else to say? Because I think we've gone long enough, and I absolutely enjoyed talking with you. You taught me a lot. Thank you so much. And
oh man, thank you. I'm totally going to be doing that quartet release. Thank you.
oh, good. And what's good with yours is that you have more than just one book after your quadrilogy or your quartet, whatever you want to call it. And that's gold right there. I only had one book after. I wish I had like 5 books after.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because once they're hooked at that point, they're hooked, right? So unless you screw it up.
I know one author, Chris Callius, that he did, I think, in a 10 or 11 book series, and he had several books, kind of like what we saw with Star Force, but his are actually, each book, I think all his box sets are about 1,000 pages. Star Force is about 300 pages per box set, but Chris Callius, he would do a trilogy for books 1 through 3, and then another trilogy for 4 through 6, and then 7 through 10, that kind of stuff, and that did really well. So that might be another thing you want to do in the future as well.
Well, it's interesting, and what we need to touch base maybe like a year from now is because by the end of this year, as long as everything remains in plan, I will have at least 3 and possibly 4 series in my world.
Nice.
Right. And so I have 2 now. And the goal is to get one series up to 5 books and the other series up to 9 books this year. And then I'm co-authoring a 3rd series in my world, which will be 5 books. And I'm looking at doing a 4th one as well, but I haven't found the co-author yet to do that. So I'm still looking. So if you know any good urban fantasy writers who want to give it a shot, send them my way.
Okay.
But
I do know some.
What would be interesting is the next step is how do you cross-pollinate? And a great guy to talk to about that is MD Cooper with the Aeon 14. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So.
And Michael Cooper is amazing.
Yeah.
That guy's phenomenal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so 1 year from now, you and I get together January 19th for another one of these talks. You want to do that?
Absolutely. I'm
awesome.
in. I mean, we'll be talking in between, but we'll have another one of these.
I will not talk to you for another year.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Brandon, I'm not, you see me at 20 books at it, bro. You don't say a word.
It was cool. And
this is awesome, man.
It was awesome that you came to Vegas. I loved it.
Yeah. And I will say, I mean, most of you don't realize this because he's a little screen thing, but that's a large man. Like not large as in like large. He's a big guy. Because I saw you in Vegas and I kind of expected, because I'm 5'7", right? I don't know. I just kind of expected my size guy, and I walk up to you. I'm like, oh my, you're way bigger than I expected.
Well, that's what Charles is to me. He's like 6'8".
Yeah.
Did you meet him?
No, I know who you're talking about, but I didn't actually meet him.
Yeah, same with Jeffrey Haskell. I think he's 6'5". So, and I'm 6'2". I mean, I'm not that tall. But.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway,
well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, man.
All right.
Take care.
All right. Bye.